Republicans in Congress are now demanding answers after the FBI decided not to recommend criminal charges against Hillary Clinton despite evidence of wrongdoing. Both FBI Director James Comey and Attorney General Loretta Lynch are set to appear on Capitol Hill to answer questions about the investigation. Director Comey will testify tomorrow before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, and Attorney General Lynch will face members of the House Judiciary Committee next week. Joining us now are the chairmen of those committees, Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz and Virginia Congressman Bob Goodlatte. Jason, Congressman Chaffetz, let's start with you. For James Comey, the question, what's your first question? What's your most pressing question?
No, I'm not giving away the first question yet, but it should be a good hearing. We want to understand the difference in his mind between gross negligence, which is in the statute, and extremely careless. We have questions about his findings. Obviously, what Secretary Clinton said time and time again, both under oath, by the way, and in the public, turned out to be not true. And so there was a lot of misleading information. We're just simply trying to expose and get to the truth.
So Congressman, I'm sitting here thinking, what would I ask the FBI director? And the first thing I would say is if you laid out 10 or 15 minutes of why you should indict and you decided not to indict, what would it have taken? What were you looking for that would have been the trigger to say, indict this woman?
I do hope by the end of the hearing we do have some more clarity on that, because if you listen to the fact pattern laid out by the FBI director, you would be led to the conclusion that she did violate the law and should be prosecuted. Certainly the Department of Justice has prosecuted people for far less, and so that does beg the question, is there something wrong with the statute, or which a lot of us have suspicion about, do the Clintons skate at a different plane on a different set of rules than your average Joe who's maybe just working for the government trying to earn a paycheck every week?
All right, but Representative Goodlatte, you're going to speak to Attorney General Loretta Lynch. So here's what I would want to know. Did she really think that meeting with Bill Clinton just days before this decision was coming down was a good idea and that wouldn't be perceived as a conflict of interest?
Well, we want to know the answer to that. We also want to know the answer to the questions that I posed to Director Comey yesterday, and we'll pose the same ones to Attorney General Lynch. And we've put those into a letter so he can look at them. In fact, I asked him yesterday. He said those were all important questions, some of the ones you just discussed with Chairman Chaffetz, and he said we deserved answers to them. So we're looking forward to both of these hearings and getting answers to these questions, particularly about the question of whether or not the average government worker in this country believes that they should be held to a standard if the Secretary of State and presidential candidate is not held to a standard.
Great questions, gentlemen. Thank you very much. You have two important meetings coming up on the Hill. Thank you very much. Congressman Chaffetz and Goodlatte, thank you. All right, here with reaction, our former DOJ employee and president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation, J. Christian Adams, my fellow co-host of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle, and host of Justice Judge Jeanine Pirro. Let's start with you, Mr. Adams. So you're listening to that. The two gentlemen have Loretta Lynch and James Comey. They're going to raise the right hand. I believe they're going to have to swear themselves. They'd be sworn in, if I'm not mistaken. What do you expect to hear from them? Do you think we'll hear nothing but the truth?
I think we'll hear nothing but the truth, but it's going to be carefully crafted and probably not tell us very much about what happened. I expect Comey will assert all of those familiar privileges against revealing any information that the Justice Department has asserted for decades. So I don't expect much to come out of these congressional hearings.
KG, how about this, control room? Can we hear Donald Trump on Clinton, whether or not there's a bribe involved? Let's take a listen to this. KG, react to this, please.
She said today that we may consider the Attorney General to go forward. That's like a bribe, isn't it? Isn't that sort of a bribe? I think it's a bribe. I mean, that if she wins, she's going to consider extending the Attorney General. And you know what? I'm not knocking the Attorney General. What I'm saying is, how can you say that? It's a bribe. I mean, the Attorney General sitting there saying, you know, if I get Hillary off the hook, I'm going to have 4 more years or 8 more years. But if she loses, I'm out of a job. It's a bribe.
What say you, KG? Is he right?
Yeah, well, I had an opportunity to interview him earlier, and he said, yes, of course, he thinks the system is rigged, the fix is in. He also brought up the fact that they met on a plane, Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton, who had appointed him. He appointed her before in a position, so it really is quite a cozy relationship. It really strikes me that it's a conflict of interest. And again, just to go back to the other comments, Director Comey saying that no reasonable prosecutor would bring this forward. It sounds like he's inserting himself as judge, jury, and investigator all at once, and I don't think that's proper at all, especially since he just laid out the standard for why the case should be brought forward and why it did meet the statutory requirements.
Jeannie, you know what strikes me? After these conventions, the Republican and Democratic national conventions, and the two nominees will now be presumed there'll be a transition period, like one of them will be president, right? So they have access to classified information. Should we hold that back from the one who's clearly can't keep it together, can't keep it a secret?
You know what, Eric? If you follow Jim Comey's suggestion that, he doesn't recommend that Hillary be prosecuted, but there are consequences for people who violate these standards of conduct, then that would automatically mean that Hillary Clinton is not one that we can be comfortable giving any kind of, special access information to. She is not a woman who is entitled to have or can be trusted with this kind of information. And let me say one more thing. Jim Comey is the head of the FBI. Right now, he's the cop, bringing to the DA the evidence that he has gathered. I'm the DA. A cop comes to me and says to me, look, I don't think you should prosecute this case. I would say to him, stay out of it. I'm the DA. I'm the one with access to the grand jury. Sure. I'll make the decision.
What about that, Mr. Adams? Should Jim Comey have made that decision? I'd like to see a jury make the decision.
Well, of course, the judge is right in an ideal world, but this is the Obama Justice Department we're talking about. And whether it's election law or criminal law involving an election, this administration is incapable from the top to the bottom, it seems, from enforcing the law fairly. Politics seems to drive decisions, both from Loretta Lynch, but the career prosecutors might have been adverse to a indictment also. Don't forget, these career prosecutors are donating to Hillary at a rate of like 20-to-1 compared to Trump. So the entire department from top to bottom has an inertia against Republicans.
KG, can you imagine? The FBI reports to the DOJ, but so does the IRS. Can you imagine if the IRS is asking for some of your records and you say, listen, I only have half of them, I got rid of the other half. What would happen to the average Joe? Yeah,
you'd be in big trouble and you'd get some silver bracelets. You'd probably be indicted and sentenced in 5 seconds. And that's the problem. I mean, the American people are really showing a distrust of D.C. politics as usual. 8 years of President Obama. 2 seconds after that announcement, they're together on the tarmac campaigning. She's at the podium with the presidential seal and on Air Force One on the taxpayer dime. If that doesn't reek of a rigged system, what does? And then you couple that with the fact that the nice optics of Loretta Lynch with Bill Clinton on the plane as well, and then, of course, the decision to not prosecute. I mean, it's really outrageous.
What are they saying, Judge? What are they saying to the American public? Yeah. Don't look this way. We got this. They think we're stupid. They think we're dumb.
Nothing to see here, folks. Let me tell you what is going on, and I said this yesterday. This is a dark day for the American criminal justice system. The politicization of the Department of Justice, of the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover is spinning in his grave. This is, and Kimberly is right, the optics are so clear. You have someone who owes Bill Clinton. He meets her when he knows he shouldn't meet her. FBI meets her on a day they don't normally meet her. She then says, you know what, I'm going to keep this person who has my whole career in her hands if I become president, and the next day they're on Air Force One. You know, the American people are not stupid, and there's only one way to handle this. Congratulations, we're having hearings tomorrow. This is a November decision, and it's up to the American public.
It blows me away. I only have a few more seconds, Mr. Adams. What happened to intent? For months, we've heard you don't need to have intent. If you're grossly negligent, that's still indictable. But apparently now you had to have intent. When did it change?
Apparently it changed on the way to the press podium. You'll notice he avoided that entirely. And as I said, a county DA could have prosecuted this case successfully. Apparently, we're not going to see whether our Justice Department can.
We have a judge saying don't make fun of the county DA. He's going to say thank you. Great debate, you guys. Thank you so much.